Welcome to the High Performance Interviews. Today I have with me Mike McQuillan. So, welcome, Mike. And Mike is all the way from Lima in Peru, and he is a teacher, he is a speaker, he's a coach, he's a mentor. And this is encompassing the fitness world, language, and a speaking coach. Now, Mike has been a speaker since 2007, and he's had his own coaching business since 2020. But there's a lot more to it than that. So I'm going to hand over to you, Mike, to share your story and your journey to where you've come to this day.
Well, thanks, Lucy, for that. We met in a meeting somewhere, and I saw a parallel between the two of us because we both have a passion for the fitness world and for communication. And people don't really see how those two intertwine. Those have been my passions my entire life. And we were talking before, 25 years ago, even longer than that, I was a Marine. And they go, oh, you must have been an infantry guy. At the bar, it's more fun to say I was a grunt, but I wasn't. I was a public affairs specialist. So
Oh,
even back then, my two passions were the physical side of being a military man and also the power of the spoken word. Not knowing that would be a theme through my entire life, those would be the two things that always carried me: the fitness world and the speaking world. And to this day, now as a speaking coach, a lot of what I do is in the world of fitness because fitness people are the best motivators. They're the best communicators. It's time we bring public speaking into that space as well and let fitness people be the best speakers there are anywhere.
that sounds fantastic and very different. Although, like you, being in the fitness and the health industry as well as the communications, I totally get it. So I totally understand it. So, where did all of that start? You said in the Marines. So, share a little bit more
Yes.
about that, Mike.
Sure. When I joined, all I knew is that I was 18 years old and I needed a place to go and do push-ups and shoot things and yell yes sir a lot. That's all I knew. I was always impressed with them, and it seemed like every time I was about to do something important in my teenage life, Marines would just show up. It's just something that just I remember going to a wrestling camp the summer before my senior year at Jay Robinson Wrestling Camp in Minnesota. Made Marine Corps boot camp easy, quite frankly. I was on the plane. At the time, University of Minnesota had the biggest undergraduate population in the United States, well over 40,000 people. At the airport, I saw a group of Marines there. They made a real impression on me. And I got to the camp, and University of Minnesota, no doubt is beautiful, but I said, I'm not crazy about this whole college environment. But those Marines, there's something about that. So that's one example. They just happened to be there to help me make a decision. So it's time to make a decision. That's where I went, not thinking about I can do broadcasting. I'm a little raspy now, but even with my New York accent, there's no way I was going to be a broadcaster. But at the time, I thought, oh, people are going to be in love with the sound of my voice. No, they're not. But those were my ambitions then, because as a teenager, the two things I cared about were watching TV and playing sports. So I'm going to be a sportscaster. Well, that was my vehicle. I realized I can do this in the Marine Corps. Oh, wow. And that got me. Obviously, things changed. I got more into the print side, but I still got to do a lot of speaking, a lot of presenting. So that planted the seed. Once I got out of the Marines, I thought I was going to take over the world. I said, I'm a sergeant on active duty. Civilian life, they're going to treat me like a general. Not exactly, say a general nuisance. But once I got out, I was lost. I was a college freshman, bombing most of my classes, including public speaking. I was doing entry level manual labor. I'd been thrown out of a couple of apartments. And so 9 months in, I finally got my own apartment. No roommates, no dorms, no barracks, just me, my four walls, and my empty refrigerator. I said, now it's time to do something big, something monumental, something life changing. I moved in on May 1st, and I went to my first Toastmasters meeting on May 3rd. 2 days later, I said, this is where I unleash the fury. I'm willing to start over at the beginning yet again in education, professionally, wherever I am in life. If I have to start at the bottom again, fine, because the speaking, I can walk in at the top. it was around the same time that I got my first job in the fitness industry, delivering and installing exercise equipment. So that furniture gig got me into the fitness world. Fast forward a year later, I've got a good paying job selling exercise equipment. I'm the president of my Toastmasters club, bought myself a new car, I furnished my 2 bedroom apartment. Life is good because of those two things, fitness and speaking. And to this day, those are the two things that carry me.
Okay, so you said because of those two things, but those
Yes.
two things came about. First of all, I can hear you followed your intuition. When you saw the
Yes.
Marines, you thought, university, my head is saying, no, I don't think so. Marines, they're going, yes. So I think you were following your intuition there to get into the Marines. And then when you've moved out, you're setting up, you're really going for it. You're not waiting, you're not wasting time. It's like you make a decision, you take a decision. Toastmasters, you're joining 2 days after you've moved into your place. And so you're an action taker as well. So would you say those two things have also helped you in other areas, Mike?
You just have to follow instinct. I mean, there are times when you plan. You want to plan a budget, set aside money for your bills. There's some things you plan rigid and regimented in your life, but you've got to have an ethos, and that ethos will drive your instinct, and the opportunities will come to you every time. So, absolutely. Some people are more sensing, and some people are more intuitive. I'm an intuitive guy. I just go. I mean, the more we talk about my life, you're going to say, "Oh yeah, that was not a logical decision, but it worked out."
And so what happened after that? What happened next? What's your next chapter after those two things happened?
It gave me a lot of confidence, and I got to live like a grown up, which was great. But I knew that, I said, Mike, you can't work retail forever. I loved it, but it's just, first off, the company has since folded, so I'm glad I wasn't part of it. All that went on. The only constant is change. See, I'm from New York originally. Once I got out of the Marines, I moved up to Alaska. You want to talk about just following instinct. I said, that's where I want to be. And that's where I got this start in my life. To finish my education, I went back to New York. I got myself an economics degree. But in that, my sport has always been wrestling. That's my thing. I don't know if it's big in the UK. You're more into boxing over there,
I
but
think
in the
so. I have
US,
to say, personally, I'm not into either of them, Mike. But yeah.
so I wanted to join the college wrestling team, which I did in my late 20s. And that's another thing. This is not because it's going to give me better job opportunities, but it kept me in good faith with the fitness industry, with fitness as a whole. When I got certified as a personal trainer, even though I was an economics major, maybe I should be working in banking, which I did for a short time. I got my insurance license for a short time. I'm not a banker, I'm not a broker. But the fitness game, I went back to the gym, and the job is not very glamorous. One client at a time, 1 hour at a time. And that grind will never show up on a resume, but it did get the attention of the principal of a career institute. She was a client of mine. Worked with about 6 months before she finally said, Mike, I've got an opportunity for you. How would you like to teach the personal training certification course at the institute? And
Aha.
that's what gave me my in. So I'm trying to look at, what do I want to be when I grow up? I didn't say this is the job that I want. I didn't say this is the career path. I just said I want to be physical. I want to speak. I want to be around people. That's all I knew. Just manifest that. The more of your own passions, no matter what it is. The job, if you want to look on the practical side of job search, the best jobs 20 years from now don't exist yet. So you can't chase that job, but you can chase the type of life, the type of work, the nature of the work you do. I want to speak to people, and I want to be physical. And I got a job teaching fitness training in a career institute. And that's when I decided this is what I want to do with my life. And the students told me just that one look and said, Mike, you're a teacher. That's what you're here to do.
Yeah. So you had that lovely big picture and allowing what I call, I don't know what you call it, Mike, I call it allowing the universe. So allowing
Mm-hmm.
that energy to come to you. It's like, this is what I want to do, big picture.
Yes.
What's going to show up? And allowing that to happen. And in its own time as well. And that lady took 6 months to say to you, how about this? And you were like, yeah, that's the opportunity. You didn't
Yes.
know. You weren't going, how am I going to do this? You were just allowing it to be, which is fantastic. So again, do you see that as a recurring thing in your life and moving forwards with your next steps after that?
Yes, well, good and bad. Because I always believe put your passion into what you do. Because even though you're not at the top where you want to be, everything you do is an inroad to the next thing. So you put all your passion into what you do. The fact that I was so passionate about working hour for hour in a small training studio is what got me this opportunity. And that's what made me say, I love teaching. This thing at the Career Institute is part-time seasonal, but I always wanted to go overseas. I spent a semester in Costa Rica. In the Marines, they never sent me overseas. So in college, I did a semester in Costa Rica, learned some Spanish. I want to go back to Latin America, but I want to have a good reason to. I don't want to just be a tourist. This said I can teach English as a foreign language in Latin America.
Yeah.
So that gig in the classroom is what had me say, where can I, this is what I can do overseas. I found this program in Peru, in Cusco. I'm in Lima now. This program was in Cusco where I can take the certification course. And I'll never forget, fast forward to when we get to the Institute, we had to do our demo classes. And I remember the instructor, and he has his own podcast and different things. His name is Tom. Be Something Wonderful. Check him out. I gave my demo class, said, Mike, you got something here. I don't know, but let's go over a couple of corrections and feedback. And boom, 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 it just tore me to pieces. I think you did this, you checked in, you talked too much here, you didn't give a chance to answer, you messed this up, you turned your back. Blah, 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 blah. He took, but Mike, you've got something. You've got it. And so that you get either an excellent, good, or needs improvement. I got a needs improvement. And then another, the next one was like, yeah, Mike, you still have some of that command presence, I guess. It was like even worse. And the next one was even worse. And then the last one. So they had 5 demo classes to do. The first one was energetic, but scattered. The next 3 were disasters. The last one that I gave, he said, Mike, that's the best one I've heard ever. And in fact, 5 years later, he's like, I'll never forget that demo that you did. What I did was, this was in Cusco, and at the time, the president, Alan Garcia, wanted to sell Machu Picchu. That's how corrupt the government is here. Okay, in the UK, in the US, government corruption is when a company pays a lobbyist to recruit a staffer to influence a legislator to change a piece of a bill, and everybody gets a little something. He wanted to sell Machu Picchu and keep the money. So they've got protests going up and down Avenida del Sol in Cusco, right past the Institute. They pull the shutters down so just in case the tear gases. So I went out with my little digital camera before smartphones and I recorded the protest of
Yeah.
them coming by and cheering and chanting. Then I did a demo class. I showed that video. I said, today we're going to create a protest. We're going to carry signs in the classroom. We're going to protest something. And it was a matter of getting rid of the structured grammatical presentation and just going for it. Taking their world, bring it into the classroom so that they can take the lead on what they do. And everything changed after that. I said, this was amazing. I'm going to take the weekend and I'm going to go to Lake Titicaca. It was about 6 hours away. I got on the bus. You're going to love this story. I'm going to give you the short version. We did a tour on the lake. We spent the night on an island in Lake Titicaca. The next day, the bus pulls up, and I'd made some friends there. We wanted to go spend the time in the city. I got a tour guide waiting for it. Mike, let's go right now. Where are you taking me? You take me to the bus station. Why are you taking me to the bus station? I'm spending the night. Oh, I'm sorry. They messed up my whole itinerary. They pulled me away from the tour group. Now I'm all by myself in this town called Puno, Peru. I started just strolling, walking down the streets. I buy an alpaca sweater. And now I'm walking, I'm trying to fold it and get it to this plastic bag, and I'm fiddling with it. And this young lady starts looking at me and laughing at me. So, what are you laughing at? 5 years later, we were married.
Ah.
You
Things
want
always
to talk
happen for a reason.
exactly. You want to talk about giving yourself to the universe. You cannot plan this. And that's how I ended up here full time, just when I thought I was out. They pulled me back in.
Wow, that's amazing. So that's a fabulous story. So you got married to this lady. How did you, I mean, that's the very short version, right?
Yes.
Is there
Oh,
anything you want
you,
to add to that to add a little bit more weight?
yeah, I said I was buying an alpaca sweater when I met her, right? Okay. Well, we were together for a couple of weeks. I went my way, she went hers. I went back to Lima, stayed in the hostel. And when I went back to New York, I left my sweater in the hostel in Lima. This was 2008. A couple years later, she reaches out to me on MySpace and how are you? And then we started talking again. Then we took the next step in our relationship. I became Facebook friends. And we started talking. We could see the affection was still there. I didn't think much of it, but she came to visit me in New York. Now this is the same time of year, February. She came to stay with me. We took a weekend trip to Washington. So we're, the States, New York to Washington, about 4 or 5 hour drive. We take a trip. I forgot my cell phone. So I was no cell phone, just the two of us for a couple of days. And you can tell this is going to be something big. This is something important. When she was on her way up to see me, she said, "Do you want anything from Peru?" I said, "Well, the two things I left behind are you and my alpaca sweater. So please bring me an alpaca sweater." So she brought me an alpaca sweater. It wasn't the same as the original. We get back to New York, finally grab my cell phone, see if I had any messages of any kind. I got a text message, it's a photo message from my sister. Again, this is a little phone with buttons on it, old school. I open it up. You know what the picture was?
The
My
alpaca
alpaca sweater.
sweater. That's unbelievable.
In the hostel in Lima, one of my roommates was my sister's roommate from college. She found the sweater. She brought it back to Newburgh, New York, where she was from. That same weekend that I went with my wife to DC to get out of town, my sister went to see her roommate that she hadn't seen in years. She said, "Oh, I think your brother left this sweater." So the weekend that I got my wife back was the day I got my sweater back.
Yay.
Now, yeah,
That's something.
now you want to talk about putting yourself out to the universe, just
Yeah.
letting it happen.
Yeah.
That is
Love
that.
that. See, I knew I needed to ask you more about that story, Mike.
Yes,
We love a little bit of romance, you know?
I tell you.
Oh gosh. So okay, so then your journey continues on. So tell us
Yeah.
more about the business side of your journey. What happened after that?
Sure. Well, I always say, it's put everything of yourself into the position, and that will create opportunities. It'll also create frustrations because your efforts are not always going to be appreciated, and sometimes they're going to be exploited. I was working in a training studio at the time. Good money, great clients, beautiful facility, but there were things going on. I don't want to air out all the laundry here, but there was some mistreatment going on with the manager and just there was somebody else there who had who rented out the side office, and he was the real power broker. Even though he was a subtenant, he did a lot of manipulating. He had a bad habit of putting his hands where they don't belong on my female clients, and every time I brought it up, the manager would throw the book at me. This was the experience, but once Flora was in my life, I just had a different vision. I'll just leave the country. So we got married later that year. At the end of the year, I gave my notice and came to Peru. I said, see ya, United States. Served you in the Marines. I got a master's degree. I worked hard. I do the right thing. And this is the best I can do as a personal training gig where people are fondling my clients and I don't have the right to speak up about it. So I came here very bitter,
Yeah.
but I had that certification to teach. I love teaching. And it got me where I had a new lease on life and you could reinvent yourself. So you can't expect to have the same job forever. You can't expect to have the same life forever, but know where your passions are and the opportunities will create themselves. I worked at a couple of different institutes. The last one, I was there for 6 years, and it was that same double-edged sword. You put everything you can into it, you'll be rewarded, but also no good deed goes unpunished. And I was getting to the point where you can plateau as a teacher. And I have much respect for people who make a career out of teaching. There is a caveat, is it's going to get stale. You can plateau. And the difference between teaching for 10 years and 20 years is not double the quality, not
Uh-huh.
double the experience. And I said, I'm looking for that big idea. What's the thing? What's the thing that's going to take this and make it a personal passion of mine? Because all I know is this. I want to teach my own creation. I didn't create the English language. I didn't create the grammar. I didn't create 9:15, quarter after nine. I didn't create that. Once COVID happened, the shutdown happened, I started getting emails from Craig Valentine, who was the world champion of public speaking 25 years ago. Now, I first heard Craig on a CD early in my Toastmasters tenure. I said, that's the guy. There are great speakers who have great techniques, but there's something about the frenetic energy on him. I call it full throttle philosophy. Said if I ever meet him, we're all in trouble.
Yeah.
But and I had met him once just briefly. He was speaking, but he was preparing to speak. I didn't want to distract him. Hey, great to meet you. Okay, great. Okay. And I heard him speak, and he was awesome. But he was, now that we were all virtual, we were on Zoom. I had a chance to take a storytelling course with him. And man, we just jived. We just clicked. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's going to involve speaking. And then he announced this speech coaching course, which is where this logo you see right here, hand is
Sure.
disappearing. And this didn't come out of a cereal box. This is a very intense course. And that's okay. Speech coaching, speech coaching, speech coaching. I can do that. A lot of people apply speech coaching to the corporate world. And quite frankly, I don't want a whole lot to do with the corporate world. Okay, that climate is changing as well, that culture. But even still, I said, it's not the corporate world. There's something halfway through the course. I saw another coach in that course, and she was working exclusively with social workers. That's strange. That's a unique niche. I mean, it's
Mhm.
almost kind of like me with the fitness industry. And I said, this is what it is. The fitness industry needs this. So I've created my business is called fitpresenter. Normally I have the fitpresenter logo here, but it doesn't look very good on the Zoom background. But that is my business, fitpresenter, teaching public speaking skills to the fitness industry. Because if you work in fitness, people are desperate to know what you know. Meanwhile, what you can look at any gym, health club facility, well over 90% of them don't have any kind of workshops or presentations on their gym floors.
No.
And those who do, they invite guest speakers to come in. No, you should be the one who carries the message. So when you and I first met, you said you're in the speaking space with podcasting, and your background is in health and wellness, and you're opening up into more coaching after all the years you've been in it. I said, that's what the industry needs, and that's what people need. Enter the fit presenter. I didn't plan to be a public speaking coach for the fitness industry. I just know fitness and presenting. And you put those together, it took 20 years of experience, but enter the fit presenter.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And again, and you spoke about it, you said reinventing yourself. So it's
Yes,
what tools have I got? What talents have I got? What skills have I got? And what can come
yes,
together? But you still had your antennae out going, what is it going to be? You
yes,
weren't sure until
yes.
you had that coaching course with, I can't remember the name of the guy,
Craig Valentine.
Craig Valentine. And
Yes,
so it's getting coached and
yes,
understanding that can lead to something because,
yeah,
doors open for us and sometimes we don't take them and we don't see them as a door of opportunity because perhaps we have to pay for it. But if you can see that you've got to pay for something sometimes to be able to get something else coming back to you, then it's definitely worth it. And then when you've
yeah.
had that inspiration, that's led you down this path of the speaking and teaching to the fitness industry. And so
Yes.
tell us again how I mean that's since 2020, so 4 years on, well, 3 years on, three and a bit from when we're speaking right now.
Mhm.
How has that progressed? And just sort of top tips after that of what you would suggest to people to do if they're thinking of changing or reinventing themselves.
Okay. To start with the first part, when I first launched this, I was still teaching. And it was like, hey, this is a kind of a pie in the sky concept, but I created a few things. I created my website and my coaching package, but I was still teaching. And I put that was kind of the start the countdown because, like I said, I love teaching, but I don't love the bureaucracy in education. I already told you one sob story about the gym. I'm not going to tell you in great detail why I left the institute, but I will say it was time to go, and it's just a matter of not being respected by the higher ups. Once I gave my notice in this is August of 2021. So it's been 2.5 years now of just flying on my own, where I'm actually, what they say, jump out of the plane and figure out how the parachute works on the way down.
Yes.
First thing to know, you are in business for yourself. You are not in business by yourself. It's you need to know who to work with and what your messaging is, who you serve, that's going to change. Because the more that I meet people, the more I realize I cannot restrict myself to only the fitness industry. I meet a lot of solopreneurs who say, yeah, basically what I do is this, and they expect, oh, great. And they don't have an actual vision of what they do. So what you need is, and if you need people to help you, that's great. In just a minute, we'll talk about who to trust to hire, who not to. But you're going to need people to help you with your messaging. Obviously, a web designer most of the time is going to help. You're going to need most likely a business coach. Now, a mindset coach is great, but there are a lot of hucksters out there. That's probably the biggest. It's the biggest piece, but it's also the biggest ripoff out there. There are people who say, "Oh, I care so much, and I teach mindset." All they know how to do is lean in and lecture you. So make sure when you hire somebody, make sure they have a specific vision for your business. So they say, you tell them about what you do, and they come back, well, we can do this for your business. We create this project, this product for this audience. We'll create this system for these people, and this is how we market it. It's got to be specific to your business. They need that vision. Do not buy anybody's greatness or self-perceived greatness. Do not buy anybody's marketing. Buy what they can do for you specifically. It's got to be some kind of proposal. That's the number one thing. Only trust people who have a vision specifically for you. Your messaging, people need to know is who you are, what you do, why you do it. How you do it comes later. If all you know how to do is describe the process, like if you're in the finance world, describing actuarials and analytics, people don't get that. They need to buy into you as much as they buy into your business. But people do need to know, maybe they don't need to know the specifics of how your programs work or how your software works, but they do need to know the specifics of what it looks like to work with you.
Mm.
I just got off of a conversation with somebody. I asked them this question 3 times. Well, basically, people have to, because my talents are, I don't care what your talents are. What does it look like to work with you? I sign up with you today. What do I get week 1? What do I get week 5? Is this a 3-month program, 6-month program? Make sure people know exactly what they get. That's the solopreneur thing. That's why I say the difference between being in business or running a business and just selling stuff is your messaging. That's the difference. If you run a business, people know exactly what it looks like to work with you. You're very specific on what your packages and your offerings are. If not, you just do stuff when people say, okay, I'll hire you. That's got to be it to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing that they know because it gives you confidence in them, but also having the confidence to ask those questions and not assuming
Yes.
that they're the right person for you. So it's a two-way
Yes.
thing. The coach is, or the person that's going to help you, whether that's a coach, a mentor, or a teacher, needs to be the right one for you, and you need to be the right fit for them. So it's two-way. So they can be
Yes.
asking you questions, but you also want to be asking them questions. So fantastic advice, Mike.
Very true.
Brilliant. Anything you want to just round off with as we come to the end?
Well, you heard me say that the difference between being in business or running a business and selling stuff is your messaging. So, what are you investing in your messaging? So many people treat public speaking like it's a homework assignment. And that's why they default to the bullet points. They can't wait to get it over with. It's one thing to put up slides if there's an image to get your message across, but if you're content with just turning your back on your audience and you give them the voyeuristic thrill of watching you talk to yourself, well, then you're doing your audience a disservice. There has to be, I mean, we're more here to talk about how letting opportunities come into your life. But in terms of speaking, you know, the most important word in public speaking? You,
Ah,
you.
yes.
And it's never all of you, it's never some of you, it's never how many of you, it's always you. I want you to talk to me as if I'm the only person in your audience. That's the most important thing. I'm going to give you, you know, since you're across the pond, I went to a Rolling Stones concert once. They came here to Lima. And you know what happened? I went to Estadio Monumental and Mick Jagger put on a concert just for me. And he invited 40,000 people to keep me company.
That was kind of him. What a lovely
Very nice of
guy.
him to do that. Yeah, that's what you want your audience to feel like.
Yeah.
You're speaking directly to, I'm speaking directly to you and all these other people there to keep you company.
Yeah.
That's the focus. And you cannot accomplish that by talking to your own slides. You cannot accomplish that by talking about yourself. So
Mm.
many speakers talk, I'm going to talk about myself first, then the material, and then you people at the end if you have any questions. No,
Ah, yeah. By that time, you've
incorporate.
already lost interest, right?
Yeah, it's over. I always say that's it, it's over. Put the focus on the audience first, then the material, and then when you've earned it, you can talk about yourself.
Mm, great advice. Mike, this has been fantastic. I've been really enjoyed
Yeah.
interviewing you, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your business to share it with us. I'm
All
sure
right.
our audience have got a ton of value from this. And we're actually both in Toastmasters. Mike's
Yes.
been a very long-term member. I've been there for a couple of months. And so that's a great way to improve your speaking because it's a
Yes.
huge international organization if you've not heard of it before. And it's probably in your area. So wherever you are listening in, there will be a Toastmasters near you. So do look at that if you just want to step into the speaking world, whether that is just to improve your skills that you don't even think you have yet, but you do, because everybody speaks, right? And you're doing it for your business, you're doing it for your company, you're just doing it for yourself, for your self-confidence. That's a really great way to go. So thanks again, Mike. Thank you to our
Thank
audience
you.
for listening in. There will be another video coming up on screen, so I will see you over there. Have an awesome day. Take care. Bye for now.